Over the past few weeks, we have spent hours in co-working analyzing what posts we are going to update, the posts that are driving traffic, but also the posts that are traffic killers. And when we looked at the analytics, it was very surprising. Some of the things we thought were still driving traffic are actually down 99%. And the others that we forgot about are secretly driving views. And some of that information has been really rocking us to our core. So today we are sharing how we make the decisions on what posts we are updating, the posts we are abandoning, and the post we are hitting delete on.
Hey everyone, we're the Branding Fix, two solo bloggers turned co-workers documenting how we're updating our blog in the age of AI. So welcome to co-working, grab a comfy chair and something to drink, and join us for our content strategy session because blogging and content creation is our business. Today we're actually going to be breaking down how we choose what blog posts we prioritize updating and even sometimes prune out of our content to maximize our content strategy.
So over the past few weeks, Fran and I, every day that we've been logging into co-working, and we co-work, by the way, Monday to Friday, every day at 7 a.m. But when we log in, we have been talking a lot about how we decide what blog posts to update. And one of the things we've been doing is a blog post audit, which means we first head over to analytics. So I personally prefer Google Search Console, right? But that only gives us the search side of things. So I've had to make friends with analytics, and I pay attention to three things. I look at blog posts that are getting the most impressions. I look at the ones that are getting the most clicks, and I'm also looking at their position in search. So essentially, when it comes to decision making, you have to deep dive your analytics. So the first thing I do is I organize according to impression. And I want to see, okay, how many eyeballs are seeing this blog post, but in relation to how many are actually clicking. Now, if it is below 5% on a click-through ratio, I need to pay attention to that one. And by the way, that is a high standard because I found out when I was Googling online that the industry average is around 3 to 5%, but I'm paying attention to anything below 5% because clearly I'm getting the eyeballs, but no one's clicking. So I want to know why. Then on the flip side, I look at those posts that are getting the most clicks and compare it to the impressions. So why are these blog posts getting more clicks than the others? And then finally, I pay attention to where their position is on Google search. So I tend to filter things through from 21, so anything smaller than 21, because then that would mean, everything else is on page 3 into the gutter, so to say. So I want to see what are the blog posts that are coming up on the first 2 pages. That is what I pay attention to the most when I'm looking at my analytics. Another thing I like to pay attention to is my blog posts that are trending up and are trending down. Now, I'm fully aware that some of my posts are seasonally themed. So for example, I have Christmas content, I have Easter content, I have back to school content, and lots more. So if something is dipping and it's off season, obviously I'm not going to pay attention to that because it's off season. What I'm prioritizing to have steady traffic all year round are those evergreen posts, things that people can be interested in all year round. So I also have to bear in mind the seasonality of things and then when things traditionally do well. So those are my 3 main things: impressions, clicks, and positions. And then I kind of give some deference to the time of year and seasonality of some post.
Now, after I select the post that I want to update, the next thing I have to figure out is whether I want to update, archive, or delete them all together. And I basically look at this from a user intent and user value. So if I can provide value to the reader by updating a blog post to best serve their user intent, it is something I'm going to update. If it's something that will require maybe me breaking this up into 5 different blog posts, and maybe it takes more research or a completely new angle in order to deliver that, maybe that is something that is worth archiving if I don't have the time to really flesh that out. But also, if it's not something that I can consistently deliver good value for the user and serving their user intent, then I think it's time for that to be deleted. If it was just a keyword grab for something that is not necessarily the main bread and butter of what the brand is for my blog, I am definitely considering now all of those need to be deleted. Now, personally, I don't have a lot of that type of content because I didn't necessarily create a ton of seasonal content just for the keywords. So I think that for the most part, I will not have a ton of those myself. Because the thing is that when it comes to updating content, we all have to realize that we have to allocate resources. And my most valuable resource and everyone's is time. So it's not something that I can dedicate time to all the things. I wish I could. I wish I had a whole team that was working on all of these things for me, but time is of essence. So we definitely need to prioritize everything we're doing. For me, that is basically how I'm looking at it. I need to make sure which ones are going to serve the most in optimizing the user experience, the user intent, and providing value for readers. In base of what is already in a trending up or something that may be dipped or that has the potential to go up. So that is definitely what I'm looking at for first, and what's going to provide the most ROI, the return on investment, because you're investing your time in updating something. You want to make sure you're going to get something back, and in this case, it's more traffic, which will turn into more revenue.
So unlike Fran, I have a lot of seasonal content. Okay, I live a seasonal life anyway, so I've been sharing a lot of seasonal lifestyle tidbits, but I have to be honest, some of it was a keyword grab. So here's a good example for me. So when it comes to Christmas, first of all, I was not raised, and I know people are going to come for me, but I was not raised in the United States. And I feel like in the US, people go all out for Christmas, like in a big way that I wasn't raised, to do, or I'm just not used to it. So a lot of it has to do with gift giving. And I had some posts on my site about gift giving, stocking stuffing, and all these things. Look, I've never had to do that, right? I didn't have to. I grew up in a super religious household. So, we did exchange gifts, but not to the magnitude that is done here where I'm living now. Do I indulge in the same? Yes, I have a long list of people to give gifts to, but as it relates to the content I was sharing, it wasn't authentic to me. I mean, I did say that, look, I didn't grow up this way, but I did a lot of like stocking stuffer things as a keyword grab. So I will be pruning some of that content. So that is a real life example for me, is just that anything that isn't in alignment, something that I can't just consistently give value, also things I just don't get joy from, because it is a headache for me having to just come up with giving gifts for the people in my own real life, much less, recommending this to people on the internet. It's just, it's not it for me. So I will definitely be pruning that kind of content. But as it relates to, living with less and buying less and stuff like that, that is something I'm very interested in. I actually shared on social media, like I went to the store and I'm always perusing the buy one, get one free sections. I check the ads online. Maybe that is something I should be sharing more of, because I do this every week or every 2 weeks, if I'm really stretching the things I have in my home. So I definitely think that is something I'm going to lean into. And that is how I'm deciding what I am pruning versus what I'm keeping as it relates to my actual content. But as I'm doing this audit, right, I'm having some very exciting discoveries. There are some posts that I just kind of did for the culture, you know what I mean? Something I had a strong opinion on, not necessarily something that was trending, but I felt was long lasting. Now it's kind of really rising to the surface. And some posts I was banking on driving the most traffic to my site because it has high keyword volume. Again, those keyword grabs. I'm now finding that some of the posts that are just really opinionated and sharing sometimes on popular opinions or my real experiences, those are doing really well. So sometimes you'll find some of those really surprising audit discoveries.
So that is basically our blueprint on how we choose what blog posts we're going to dedicate time to. And if you want to follow the same plan, basically what you're going to do is you're going to make Google Search Console and Google Analytics your BFF. I know that they're not the best and they are difficult to get used to, but you'll get the hang of it. Here comes from someone that really disliked both tools. I am definitely more friendly with Google Search Console than Analytics, but you can do it. So you're going to look at your Google Analytics and your Google Search Console. You're going to look at impressions, clicks, and rankings. And in base of that, you're going to determine what content is worth updating. Then you're going to take that list and you're going to take out anything that is seasonal, that doesn't have anything to do with the time. You're going to look at your trending up and trending down spots on Google Search Console, because that's going to give you things where you can have quick wins. Now you have your final list of what you need to do, and you're going to decide what you're updating, what you're archiving, and what you are fully deleting. Don't be scared to delete. Don't be scared to prune. Maybe you need to prune full categories because you don't want to continue making that content, like Victoria just talked about her gift guide. So definitely be mindful of where you're allocating your time. Remember, that is your most valuable resource. And once you have that final list and you have your plan, you're going to get to work on it. So hopefully this gives you a good content strategy for how you're going to prioritize choosing what you're going to update. Let us know in the comments if this was helpful, if you have any other ways that you do it, or if you've had any big audit discoveries as well.
All right, team, that's it. That's a wrap on today's co-working session. I know we were heavy on the analytics, but we want you to stick around for our next video, because we will be sharing how we actually update each individual blog post. Because today we were looking at the big picture on analytics, deciding what we will update, what we will archive, and what we will delete. But now we are going to get into how we update and the steps that we take to ensure that we continue driving traffic to our blogs. So be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you can come co-work with us next week. All right, everyone. See you in the next one. Bye.